Today, I will be spinning a wheel to determine how Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc could have gone. Alex's Random Biz starts now. Hey guys, and welcome to a new mini-series on the channel, Alex's Random Biz. Basically, it's just me talking about anything that may not involve auto racing. So recently, I got into playing Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc on the Xbox Game Pass. Basically, it's on the Xbox Game Pass, that's how I was able to play it. And this all happened because of a couple friends that played it. And I've heard about it in the past, but I've never really looked into it. But I figured, why not give it a shot and see what happened. So I will go ahead and say spoiler warning ahead for those who may want to play the game or see the anime. If you do not want to see spoilers, I understand completely. I have only played the first game. I have not played any of the others just yet. With that being said, the game is basically about a group of high school students who have all these gifted talents, like one character is the ultimate gambler, one character is the ultimate baseball player, and all that. Basically, they get trapped inside a high school for the rest of their lives. And the only way out is, to quote the band Papa Roach, getting away with murder. I wish I could play that song, but, well, you know why I can't. So, there are 6 chapters, and once someone gets killed, you then have to find out who done it. You have to go through all the investigation, find all the facts of evidence and proof of evidence, and basically Monokuma, the headmaster of the school, or who I like to call basically, he says that if you find out who the murderer is, then only the murderer gets punished and executed. If you pick the wrong one, everyone else pretty much gets killed, and the murderer gets away scot-free and will, quote, graduate.
What the hell is that? What the hell is that?
Totally no pressure at all, right? So, I recently did beat the game, and you also find out who the headmaster of this entire thing is by Chapter 6, the final chapter of the game. I recently watched a video from a channel called Weeby News, called Danganronpa 1, but the wheel decides their fate. And I saw a bunch of other videos like this, so after watching that video, I decided to give it a shot myself to see what my version of Trigger Happy Havoc would look like. I already went ahead and spun everything and wrote down the results, and so basically I'm going to try and come up with some sort of story and reasons why things happened the way they did. So yeah, as you know, I make NASCAR alternate universe content through Sunday Night Lights and Divided Ending. Those of you that watch that, I am working on Sunday Night Lights. Actually, as I'm recording this, I have a 1991 race happening in the background. So think of it that way. It's an alternate universe, an alternate scenario of Trigger Happy Havoc, but it's all decided by a wheel. So first off, I did spin the wheel for the protagonist, and funny enough, I ended up landing on
Celestia Ludenberg, god damn it!
That's right, Celeste. Or, as I like to call her, Goth Queen. Definitely quite different here from what happened to her in the game. Obviously, she is known as the Queen of Liars, and is also known as the Ultimate Gambler. However, it is questioned who she truly is, and if she's going to be the main character here, that would be fun to dive into about her life and the past. She supposedly was given the name Taiko Yasuhiro and was born into a likely working-class family in Tochigi. I'm not good at Japanese pronunciations. I'm just some guy from Kentucky, so I apologize. So the fact that she did not like her true self and grew into this obsession of European royalty and started gambling just so that she could actually move into this castle and have a bunch of vampire men as her servants, as she explained before her execution in the Chapter 3 class trial. So, after saying all of that, I think Celeste being a protagonist could be really fun to develop as a character. Now, we gotta have our supporting character. That's who I rolled next. Or I should say, that's who I spun next. So basically, Kyoko to Makoto, when he was the main character in Trigger Happy Havoc. And funny enough, I got Kyoko Kirigiri as the supporting character, which I'm fine with, and it would be interesting to see a friendship between Kyoko and Celeste. Not to mention, can we all agree that if this entire group of high school students didn't have Kyoko, they would all be dead by chapter 1. Can we all... I think we can all agree on that. Alright, so, on to the story with chapter 1, and for the first victim I got, this really bummed me out, but once again, just like in the actual game itself, Sayaka Mizuno was the first victim, just like in the game.
No!
This time, the killer ended up being Mondo Owada instead of it being Leon. So I had to think on how this would go. I think, Sayaka would reunite with Makoto from their junior high days. Obviously, there was some dialogue between Sayaka and Celeste for this case as well, since Celeste is the main character. As for Mondo, I know that he had a moment where he completely knocked out Makoto early in the game, and perhaps this time he doesn't really keep his emotions under control as well. Mondo probably would want to look for a way out as quick as possible, and without missing a beat, he takes out Sayaka to get away with it. Not to mention how he kind of treated Makoto early on. Now, would Sayaka try to set something up to get Makoto murdered again? I don't know. Things may happen differently to where that may not have been the case. There's a reason for that because of what I ended up getting for Chapter 2. So once again, Mondo is the killer, and the victim was, unfortunately, Sayaka. So in Chapter 2, this gets a bit more depressing, as unfortunately Makoto ends up the victim, and I won't lie, I do ship Makoto and Kyoko a little bit. I just ship it. So who's the killer? Who killed Makoto? I spun it again. It was Makoto. So what makes matters worse is that he ends up taking his own life. I would think that he probably grew a decent connection to Kyoko and Celeste here, despite how different things are. But also, I would say Makoto just felt really devastated when he found out that Mondo had killed Sayaka for his reasons and everything. But like I said earlier, I don't think Sayaka would try to get Makoto murdered here either. Even though she wanted out herself, I think Kyoko would be a little hurt by Makoto's suicide as well, because I think she saw a lot of potential in him, and for him to take his own life, I think stings her a little bit. She doesn't show her emotions, but you can kind of sense that it kind of stinks. I can imagine Monokuma pulling out a suicide note, similar to what you saw in Chapter 4 in the actual game when the trial found out that Sakura took her own life. Now, for Celeste, up until this point, probably has the same mentality she had in the game, that, oh, we should adapt to this whole new life, that, which we all knew she said was BS anyway.
That was bullshit!
I think at this point, she has a change of heart and decides to help Kyoko and work with her in any way to what was going on and to get out of Hope's Peak. This is where I think the friendship really grows between Celeste and Kyoko. Was basically based on Chapter 2 and how the wheel decided for Makoto to take his life, which again, very heartbreaking. Alright, in Chapter 3, this was the one with 2 victims, so I went ahead and rolled with that as well. So, the victim ended up being Toko, the first victim, and then the other victim was Leon. And who was the murderer?
Mukuro Ikusaba.
So, I had it to where there were 16 students right at the start, just 16. So, Mukuro and Junko are present up until this point. I read somewhere that it's implied that Mukuro had a crush on Makoto, and I think when Makoto ended up killing himself here, I think Mukuro would end up being very heartbroken, and then suddenly go into the mood of whatever happens, happens, and that she would be okay with dying at this point. So, I think what she decides to do is she ropes in Leon and promises, hey, let's kill someone and get out of here together, you and me. Completely forgetting about that one rule that Monokuma talked about before, that the one who actually did the murder would get away with it. Leon gets instructed to take out someone like Toko, so Leon ends up killing Toko, and then Mukuro turns on Leon, and knowing that Leon is a bit hot-headed, and he's hot-headed enough to not suspect anything. Yep, she kills him. I feel like everyone would be really stunned at Mukuro being the Blackened, as Monokuma calls it. And before her punishment, I would say she probably has a really emotional moment with her sister Junko before execution, and kind of thinking about Makoto as well. So next up is Chapter 4, and in a twisted way of fate, I feel like somehow so far this story is matching up in some way, shape, or form. Junko was the victim after just losing her sister Mukuro. The next spin of the killer, I ended up getting Byakuya Togami. So I had to think a little bit on this one. Maybe Byakuya wants to get out of there for the sake of the upkeep and reputation of his family, in which he could be told literally when they vote and it's found out that they got it right. Maybe right then and there, Monokuma pulls a fast one and goes, "Oh, by the way, before your punishment, I want to let you know that your whole family is dead." Or something like that. Because something like that was pointed out during the final trial in Chapter 6 in the real game. I feel like Byakuya might be a little selfish here, considering the fact that Junko just went through losing her sister and what she was going through, and now Junko gets killed. I think a lot of people would just tell Byakuya, go F yourself, go, stuff like that. I think this could be the one moment in the game, in this scenario, where how Celeste completely flips out during the Class 3 trial when it's found out she was busted, except in this case, she wasn't a killer and she's the protagonist. I think this could be the moment where Celeste breaks her accent and just goes straight off on Byakuya.
I should throttle you!
Chapter 5, as we get close to the end, something similar happens here to the game. Hifumi kills Taka, except there was no influence from Celeste. Perhaps something more to do of the mastermind and who that person is. I don't know, maybe the two of them fight over alter ego, but the thing is, Chihiro's still alive. I have not brought up Chihiro yet, so I don't think that could be the case. Something else had to have happened, so I haven't really thought about that, but hey, if anyone has any ideas, hit me up in the comments. So that leaves us with the following: Celestia Ludenberg, our main character, Kyoko Kirigiri, our support character, Aoi Asahina, Sakura Ogami, Chihiro Fujisaki, and Yasuhiro Hagakure. At this point, I went ahead and spun who the mastermind was, and as weird as this gets, I landed on Yasuhiro Hagakure, which after all of that would sound really odd for him to be the mastermind. But this could be a case where, Yasuhiro's present at times, randomly disappears, because again, the mastermind had to control Monokuma supposedly, so yeah. Maybe that crystal ball he has controls Monokuma in a way. I'm not really sure. Yeah, very, very odd. But, yeah. Yasuhiro ends up being the mastermind behind all this. And in the end, we are left with our survivors. Celeste, Kyoko, Hina, Sakura, and Chihiro. Huh. An all-girls squad. Oh, wait. One guy and all girls. So at this point, yeah, that's how it all plays out. My version of Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc. There you have it. Maybe Celeste ends up giving up the idea of living in a European castle at this point and opts to work with the survivors to help bring better hope to the world as they finally get to leave Hope's Peak Academy. And I want to touch on that real quick. I really love that at the end of the game, it really got down to the idea of hope trampling over despair. And I feel like I played this game in such a timely manner. Obviously, everybody's aware of the situation going on over in Eastern Europe with Ukraine and Russia. And I'm praying if anyone who has connections to Ukraine, whether it's relatives or friends, or you're from Ukraine yourself, I'm praying for all of you, and I'm praying for the folks there. But that made me realize that hope will trample despair. And I think that's something that we always need to think about. Hope will always triumph over despair. And we always grab onto that hope, no matter the darkest of times. And I know in the last 3 years, we've been through all sorts of crazy crap with the pandemic and everything else. And just know that in the end, always hold on to that hope. There's always hope. Let that always beat despair, no matter what happens. So with that being said, again, this is a brand new mini-series I'm doing on my channel. Just to kind of do a little bit of different things. Like, generally it'll be me talking about stuff like this, or talking about certain animes or just stories in general. Like, I'd like to do a video on how I became a NASCAR fan, or why I loved K-On! So much, and stuff like that, essentially. That's what I want to do. But also do NASCAR content. I want to do more what-if stuff, NR 2003 stuff. The NR 2003 stuff just takes time, because I work a full-time job and everything else. Yeah, let me know what you guys think of this concept of Alex's Random Biz. I hope you guys like the idea. I want to thank my friend Jetman999 for helping me with this idea and making the logo for this mini-series. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, hit the like button, hit subscribe if you like. I have a Patreon down below you can check out. There's not much there, but hopefully I can utilize a little bit more down the road. That being said, thank you guys so much. I'm SonicGirls831, and I'll see you in the next video.